The eternal harmony shuddered as reality itself tore around it. The wormhole, stable according to all calculations, collapsed prematurely, its quantum walls buckling inward with catastrophic force. Captain Zinkala gripped her command chair, translucent skin pulsing with rapid cyan heartbeats visible beneath. "Report," she demanded, her 4 eyes scanning multiple holographic displays simultaneously. 37 crew members lost, responded her second officer, Karks. The hulking Dorvanian's 4 arms worked separate console interfaces with practiced precision. Primary systems failing. Quantum navigator damage. Artificial gravity fluctuating. The ship's omnipresent AI spoke with unsettling calm. "Alert. Wormhole exit coordinates unknown. Current location does not match any cataloged star system. Nearest Concordat outpost estimated at 47.3 standard years at maximum sustainable sublight speed." Through the viewports, an ominous red giant star loomed, its swollen atmosphere churning with solar flares and magnetic storms. Trellnox, the ship's chief engineer, analyzed the sensor data through the crystalline implant protruding from his exoskeleton. "Captain, life support capacity will sustain 26 remaining crew for maximum 8.2 years, the Vex theory announced. "We are, by all objective measures, doomed." Emergency klaxons blared as secondary explosions rocked the ship. A support beam tore loose from the ceiling, plummeting toward the captain. A blur of motion. Someone tackling Zinkala, both bodies rolling across the deck as the beam impaled her command chair. The captain found herself staring into the face of a human female wearing a diplomatic corps uniform. "Lieutenant Maya Chen," the human said, helping the captain to her feet. "I was supposed to disembark at Proxima Station. But what is a human doing on my bridge?" Zinkala interrupted, mandibles clicking in agitation. Kark stomped forward, looming over the comparatively tiny human. She was in cryosleep in the diplomatic quarters. The emergency protocols must have awakened her, his upper arms folded across his armored chest, while his lower hands remained on his weapons. Humans have no place on a Concordat vessel of this classification. Whispers rippled through the bridge crew. Humans were the newest and least respected species in the Galactic Concordat, admitted more for political expediency than recognized merit. Their technology was centuries behind, their physical capabilities unremarkable, their homeworld unimpressive. "I can help," Maya offered, standing her ground despite the towering aliens surrounding her. Trellnox's laughter was a chittering sound that caused his exoskeleton to crack slightly along pre-molted seams. "You, a human, what could you possibly contribute that our advanced minds cannot?" "Different perspective," Maya answered simply. "You saved my life with your emergency protocols. Let me try to return the favor." Captain Zinkala studied the human with all 4 eyes. "Confine her to the maintenance corridor on Deck 7. It should be suitable for human habitation. We have more pressing concerns." As security escorts led Maya away, another explosion rocked the ship. The red giant outside flared ominously, bathing the command deck in crimson light. "Hull breach on decks 3 through 5, reported the AI. "Neural navigation system experiencing cascade failure. Estimated complete loss of navigational capability in 17 hours. Zinkala stared at the dying star outside. In her centuries of service to the Concordat, she had never faced a situation with such dismal survival probability. The irony wasn't lost on her, that a human, the most primitive sentient aboard, had just saved her life while her advanced ship and crew faced extinction. "Begin emergency protocols," she ordered. "Survival is now our only mission." 3 days into the crisis, Maya sat cross-legged in the narrow maintenance corridor that had become her quarters. The space was barely 2 meters wide, lined with conduits and access panels. To the advanced species of the Concordat, it was little more than a crawl space. To the human, it was opportunity. Maya's fingers danced across an antiquated maintenance terminal the crew had forgotten existed. The system had been superseded by neural interfaces centuries ago, but remained as a redundant backup, invisible to the specialized minds of the crew focused only on bleeding-edge technology. "Hello, old friend," she whispered as the terminal responded to her touch. Years serving as a diplomatic attaché had taught her that understanding the past was as valuable as envisioning the future. The ship's diagnostics scrolled before her eyes. Cascading failures throughout critical systems, radiation leakage from the warp core, and life support operating at 34% efficiency. The situation was worse than the crew was admitting. 6 decks above, chaos reigned on the command level. Sephora, the mithril communications officer, convulsed on the floor, silver blood trickling from her ears. Her psychic abilities, evolved for instantaneous communication across vast distances, had overwhelmed her brain as she desperately searched for any Concordat presence in this unknown region. "Restrain her," Captain Zinkilot ordered as the psychic's telekinetic abilities lashed out unconsciously, sending equipment flying. "Medical team to the bridge." In the adjacent chamber, Trelnox and his engineering team watched in horror as the neural navigator, the biological quantum computer that was the ship's navigational brain, deteriorated before their eyes. The specialized fungi-based computer, capable of plotting courses through 11-dimensional space, was dying as radiation penetrated the damaged hull. "We cannot navigate without it," Trelnox reported, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. "The backup systems require computational capability beyond our remaining resources." A silent pall fell over the command deck. Without the navigator, they were truly stranded. "Life support analysis complete," announced the ship's eye. "Current configuration will sustain crew for approximately 7 days before critical failure." Captain Zinkala convened an emergency meeting of all department heads. The atmosphere grew increasingly hostile as blame was assigned and options exhausted. "We could jettison non-essential personnel to extend life support duration," suggested Karks, pointedly glancing toward the deck where the human was quartered. Before the captain could respond, Maya appeared at the entrance to the conference room. Karks moved with surprising speed for his bulk, 4 arms grabbing the human and physically hurling her back toward the corridor. "You were not summoned," he growled. "But I found something." Maya's voice was cut off as the doors sealed. Hours later, as the command crew rested in rotation, Captain Zinkila found herself wandering the ship. The burden of command weighed heavily on her shoulders. These lives were her responsibility, and she had failed them. A soft scratching sound drew her attention to the wreckage of the navigation room. Inside, illuminated only by the dying red giant visible through the viewport, sat Maya Chen. She was surrounded by hand-drawn star charts and what appeared to be crude measuring tools fashioned from scrap metal. "What are you doing?" the captain demanded. Maya looked up, dark circles under her eyes betraying her exhaustion. "Saving our lives," she answered simply. "The star is dying. That much is obvious, even to a human," Zinkala replied dryly. "No, you don't understand." Maya pointed to her calculations. "It's not just dying. It's about to go nova. And that's exactly what we need." The captain's 4 eyes blinked in asynchronous confusion. Explain. "I've been analyzing the stellar output patterns. This star will collapse within 10 days, creating an energy wave we can ride. With manual navigation and proper timing, we can slingshot around it during the nova event and accelerate to speeds that would get us to that habitable moon I identified in the 5th orbital position." Zinkala stared at the primitive tools, the paper charts, the human who dared to suggest she could navigate where the most advanced computer in the Concordat had failed. "Your species navigated oceans using sticks and stars," she stated flatly. Maya smiled. "Exactly. Sometimes the old ways work when technology fails." Against her better judgment, the captain found herself listening. The command deck fell silent as Maya finished her presentation. What the captain had allowed as a 5-minute courtesy had stretched into a comprehensive hour-long plan. The humans stood before the assembled crew, dwarfed by their alien physiologies, but somehow filling the room with her presence. "That's impossible," Trelnox finally broke the silence, his crystalline implant flashing with calculations. The gravitational forces alone would tear the ship apart. Not if we approach at precisely the right angle, Maya countered, manipulating the holographic display with confident gestures. Your species evolved perfect mathematical precision, but you're locked into established formulas. Humans evolved as adaptable generalists. We see patterns and possibilities that specialized minds might miss. She demonstrated her makeshift sextant, constructed from debris found in the maintenance corridor. My ancestors crossed vast oceans using tools no more advanced than this. They mapped stars and continents with naked eyes and steady hands. Primitive trinkets won't save us from a stellar nova, scoffed Karks. Captain Zinkala raised a hand for silence. Trelnox, analyze her proposal with your engineering team. I want a complete assessment. 3 hours later, the Vex Theory engineer returned, his exoskeleton quivering with agitation. I've run the calculations through our remaining computational systems, he admitted reluctantly. The human's trajectory requires 43% less fuel than our best alternative and reduces structural stress by an estimated 27%. Murmurs rippled through the crew. Maya nodded, unsurprised. However, Trelnox continued, the margin for error is minimal. The timing and angles must be perfect, a task beyond human reaction capability. Then let's put it to the test, Maya suggested. A navigation calculation contest. Me with my primitive methods against your quantum-enhanced brain. The challenge was so audacious that several crew members made the chirping sounds that passed for laughter among their species. Captain Zinkala, however, nodded gravely. Proceed. A series of increasingly complex navigational problems were presented. To the crew's collective astonishment, Maya's solutions, while arrived at more slowly, consistently matched or exceeded Trelnox's precision. Humans developed mathematics before computers, Maya explained. We understand the underlying principles in ways that intuitive neural interfaces sometimes bypass. As preparations began for implementing Maya's plan, Trelnox retreated to his engineering bay, mandibles clicking in frustration. With a subtle sequence of commands, he modified the stellar data being fed into Maya's calculations. Nothing dangerous, just enough to ensure her solution would fail, proving the superiority of Concordat methods. Maya worked through the night, her instincts nagging that something was wrong. The stellar patterns had shifted subtly, inconsistent with natural progression. She cross-referenced the original sensor logs she downloaded to her maintenance terminal, confirming her suspicion. She found Trelnox alone in the auxiliary control room. You altered the data, she stated flatly, presenting her evidence on a data tablet. The Vex Theory's carapace darkened with the equivalent of a flush. The safety of this vessel cannot rest on primitive human methods. Your sabotage endangers everyone aboard, Maya countered. I could take this to the captain. She would never believe a human over her chief engineer. Maya stepped closer, lowering her voice. Maybe. But do you want to risk your reputation on that assumption? The altered data has your access signature all over it. Trelnox stared at the human, reassessing her. Not just mathematically capable, but politically savvy as well. Perhaps there was more to these humans than Concordat education suggested. What do you propose? He asked stiffly. Collaboration, Maya replied. Real collaboration. Your specialized knowledge combined with my adaptable approach. Together, we might just survive this. For a long moment, Trelnox calculated probabilities. Finally, his mandibles clicked in the Vex Theory gesture of reluctant agreement. If we fail, we die together, he said. Maya smiled. That's the first honest thing you've said to me. As they worked through the night, recalculating trajectories and stress tolerances, an unlikely alliance formed. Specialized precision and human intuition working in tandem for the first time in Concordat history. The eternal harmony trembled at the edge of the stellar storm. Through the viewports, the dying red giant churned with apocalyptic fury, its surface rippling with plasma waves and magnetic distortions. In 12 minutes, according to Maya's calculations, it would begin the final collapse that preceded Nova. All crew to emergency stations. Captain Zinkala's voice echoed through the ship. Secure for extreme gravitational stress. Maya stood at the hastily constructed manual navigation station, her hand steady despite the sweat beading on her forehead. The console was a hybrid creation, her primitive human interfaces grafted onto Concordat technology by Trellnox's engineering team. Around her, the bridge crew monitored systems with tense focus. Trellnox stood nearby, his exoskeleton polished to a formal shine for what might be his final hours. The unlikely collaboration between human and Vex Theory had produced a navigation solution that the ship's remaining computers rated at a 57% probability of success, dismal by Concordat standards, but miraculous given their situation. "Begin approach sequence," ordered the captain. Maya's fingers danced across the controls, making dozens of micro-adjustments that contradicted the surviving computer's recommendations. The ship shuddered as it accelerated toward the dying star, metal groaning under forces it was never designed to withstand. "The computer suggests a 3-degree course correction," reported Karks, his 4 hands gripping support rails as gravity fluctuated wildly. "Negative," Maya replied without looking up. "That's based on standard Nova models. This star's magnetic field indicates asymmetrical collapse." "You cannot possibly know that," Karks growled. "I've spent my life studying patterns," Maya responded, eyes fixed on her instruments. "Stars die like everything else, uniquely." Captain Zinkala studied the human's unwavering focus, then made a decision that would forever alter her career. "Follow Lieutenant Chen's course, exactly as plotted." Kark stared in disbelief. "Captain, with all due respect." "The order stands." Zinkala cut him off. In their centuries of service together, she had never overruled her second officer on navigational matters. The rift between them was palpable. The ship plunged deeper into the stellar maelstrom. Warning signals blared as radiation levels spiked. Maya's station, hastily constructed without proper shielding, exposed her to doses that the protected crew members were spared. "Approaching critical threshold," Trellnox announced, his voice uncharacteristically tight. "Nova initiation in 43 seconds." Maya's hand hovered over the final thruster control, the one that would determine their fate in the coming seconds. Her eyes darted between instruments, calculations, and the view screen showing the dying star. Then, to everyone's shock, she pushed the control in the exact opposite direction from her carefully plotted course. "No," Trellnox screamed, lunging forward. 3 seconds later, a massive solar flare erupted precisely where they would have been had Maya followed her original plan. The ship shuddered violently as it skirted the edge of the plasma eruption, its shields flaring to blinding intensity. "How did you?" Trellnox began. "Instinct," Maya gasped, her skin reddening from radiation exposure. "Saw the magnetic flux. Pattern change. Had to trust my gut." The star collapsed in upon itself, then exploded outward with unimaginable force. The eternal harmony rode the shockwave like a surfer on its tsunami, gaining impossible velocity as the Nova propelled them toward the habitable moon Maya had identified. As emergency systems stabilized and the crew realized they had survived, Maya collapsed at her station, radiation sickness overtaking her. Medical personnel rushed forward with stasis equipment. "Get her to the regeneration chamber," Captain Zinkala ordered. "Priority 1. As they carried the unconscious human away, Trellnox approached the captain, mandibles clicking in the Vex Theory expression of profound confusion. "Captain, that last adjustment, it wasn't in her calculations. There was no mathematical basis for that decision." "Then how did we survive?" Zinkala asked. Trellnox's crystalline implant flashed as he struggled to find a logical explanation. The human called it gut instinct, a sensory-based intuitive leap that contradicted all available data. And yet, the captain observed, watching as they carried Maya to medical. She was right. "It defies explanation," Trellnox admitted. By all established probabilities, we should be dead. Captain Zinkala's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, her species' expression of deep contemplation. Perhaps, she said softly, there are forms of intelligence the Concordat has yet to fully understand. Maya awakened to the soft hum of the regeneration chamber, her body still tingling from cellular repair. 3 days had passed since the Nova slingshot maneuver. Through the transparent cover, she saw Captain Zinkala waiting. "Welcome back, Lieutenant Chen," the captain said as the chamber opened. "Your actions saved this vessel." Maya sat up slowly, testing her restored body. "Where are we?" "In stable orbit around the moon you identified. Preliminary scans show breathable atmosphere and viable resources." The captain paused. "We've also detected artificial structures on the surface." Maya followed the captain to the observation deck. Through the viewport, a verdant moon hung against the backdrop of space, swirled with blues and greens beneath wispy cloud patterns. It looked remarkably Earth-like. "A shuttle expedition was deployed yesterday to investigate the structures," Zinkala continued. "We lost contact after their initial landing. Their last transmission mentioned unusual electromagnetic disturbances affecting Concordat technology." "You need me to go down there," Maya concluded. The captain's mandibles clicked. "Not out of respect, Lieutenant. Out of necessity. Your obsolete human skills may prove useful in a technology-limited environment." 2 hours later, Maya found herself aboard a second shuttle with the rescue team, including Trellnox, Karks, and 2 security specialists. The descent was turbulent as electromagnetic interference scrambled navigation systems. They landed roughly in a clearing surrounded by towering purple-leafed vegetation. The first expedition's shuttle sat abandoned nearby, its hatch open. "Life signs detected inside," reported one of the security specialists, checking a handheld scanner that flickered erratically. "All alive but unresponsive." The team found the first expedition incapacitated in their seats, breathing but unaware of their surroundings. A fine yellow pollen dusted the interior. "Neurotoxin," Maya said, examining the substance carefully without touching it. The ship's sensors would have detected it if it were ordinary pollen. "How could you possibly know that?" Karks demanded. "Human history is filled with explorers encountering new biological threats," Maya explained. "The symptoms match paralytic alkaloid poisoning. We need to get them back to the ship and keep ourselves from being exposed." Using emergency breathers, they transferred the affected crew to their shuttle's medical bay. The rescue team then continued toward the alien structure visible on the horizon. Their path led through increasingly challenging terrain. Carnivorous plants snapped at passing limbs, quicksand-like soil nearly claimed one of the security specialists, and clouds of spores induced vivid hallucinations in Trellnox until Maya identified the fungus and led them around its territory. Without reliable technology, the specialized Concordat species struggled to adapt. Karks's combat training proved ineffective against environmental threats. Trellnox's analytical mind lacked practical reference points for wilderness survival. "How are you navigating without instruments?" Trellnox finally asked as Maya led them confidently through a maze-like ravine. "Moss grows on the shadowed side of rocks here," she explained. "Wind patterns have shaped those trees to lean away from the prevailing weather front. Water always flows downhill, and game trails follow the path of least resistance while leading to water sources." "You're reading the landscape itself as an information system," Trellnox realized. Maya nodded. "Humans evolved as persistence hunters on a planet with wildly diverse environments. We're pattern recognition specialists." Their progress halted at a subterranean chamber entrance. Scans showed the missing security team had passed through but not returned. As they descended, water began flooding the passage with alarming speed. Karks, leading the way, became trapped when his massive frame wedged between narrowing walls as water rose rapidly. His lower arms were pinned, preventing him from freeing himself. Without hesitation, Maya stripped off her heavier equipment. "I'll free him. Be ready to pull him out when I give the signal." Before anyone could object, she dove into the rising water, disappearing beneath the surface. Seconds stretched into a minute, then two. Trellnox chittered nervously. Humans cannot survive without oxygen for this long, he insisted. Just as he finished speaking, Maya surfaced briefly for a gasping breath, then dove again. 3 more breath-holding dives later, she had cut through Karx's equipment straps with a utility knife, freeing him from the constriction. As they hauled the waterlogged Dorvanian to safety, he stared at Maya with newfound confusion. You risked drowning. Why? Because that's what crew members do for each other, she replied simply, wringing water from her hair. That evening, they made camp on a plateau overlooking the alien structure, now visible as a massive obsidian pyramid pulsing with internal lights. While Trellnox struggled to repair their malfunctioning equipment, Maya constructed a fire using friction techniques that the others found primitively fascinating. As they huddled around the warmth, Karx approached Maya, his massive frame casting long shadows in the firelight. Your diving ability, he said gruffly. The breath control and cold tolerance. How is that possible for such a physically unimpressive species? Maya smiled. Humans have been free diving for pearls and food for thousands of years. Some can hold their breath for over 10 minutes with training. We're more adaptable than your Concordat databases suggest. Karx's 4 arms performed a complex gesture, the Dorvanian acknowledgement of respect for a proven warrior. Perhaps, he rumbled, there is more to learn about humans. Dawn broke over the alien pyramid, its obsidian surface capturing the light in hypnotic patterns. The rescue team approached cautiously, weapons ready despite their uncertain functionality in the electromagnetic disturbance field. The structure appears to be at least 50,000 years old, Trellnox observed, his crystalline implant struggling to process limited sensor data. Yet it shows energy signatures consistent with active technology. The entrance revealed itself as they approached, a triangular doorway that irised open silently. Cool air rushed outward, carrying the scent of ozone and something indefinably ancient. Stay alert, Karx ordered, taking point with all 4 arms holding weapons. Preliminary team could be anywhere inside. They descended a spiraling ramp into the heart of the pyramid. Glowing symbols lined the walls, mathematical sequences, and geometric patterns that shifted and reconfigured as they passed. These symbols, Maya murmured, trailing her fingers near but not touching the glyphs. They look familiar somehow. The central chamber was a vast hemispherical space, dominated by a crystalline console at its center. Around it, both missing expedition teams stood motionless, eyes fixed on the pulsing light emanating from the console. They appeared entranced but unharmed. Do not approach them, Maya warned. Something about that interface has captured their attention completely. Sephora, the mithril communications officer from the first team, stood closest to the console. Silver tears streaked her face, her psychic receptor antenna vibrating uncontrollably. I will attempt to establish psychic contact, offered one of the rescue team's mithril members. Before anyone could object, she extended her consciousness toward Sephora, then collapsed screaming. Too many voices, she shrieked, clutching her head. Too many possibilities. The system thinks in all directions simultaneously. Karx pulled her away from the others as Maya studied the central console with growing fascination. These patterns, she said, they're similar to early human computing languages, binary codec arranged in recognizable sequences. Trellnox attempted to interface with the system using his implant, but received a painful feedback surge for his efforts. Each crew member tried their species' preferred technological interaction method, all failing painfully or simply being ignored by the ancient system. Maya circled the console methodically, studying every symbol and connection. It's not responding to neural interfaces or telepathic communication, she observed. But look here, what appears to be a physical input mechanism. A rectangular section of the console contained what looked remarkably like a keyboard with symbols corresponding to those on the surrounding walls. Impossible, Trellnox declared. No advanced civilization would rely on crude physical inputs when neural interfaces are more efficient. Maya ran her fingers over the keys, unless they specifically wanted to limit who could interact with their system. She pressed a sequence of keys based on the mathematical progression displayed on the wall. The console hummed to life, holographic displays blossoming above it in complex three-dimensional arrays. The entranced crew members didn't react, still locked in their unresponsive state. "It's working," Maya exclaimed, continuing to input commands as understanding of the system grew. This installation was created by the Precursors, the mythical race mentioned in Concordat founding texts. Holographic imagery revealed the installation's purpose, an intergalactic transit hub connected to a vast network spanning multiple galaxies. "This could get us home," breathed Trellnox. As Maya continued interfacing with the system, it suddenly projected a series of tests, logical puzzles, ethical dilemmas, and multidimensional problems that appeared in sequence above the console. "It's testing us," Karks realized. For worthiness, the specialized minds of the Concordat crew approached each test with their evolutionary advantages: perfect mathematical precision, telepathic insight, multidimensional perception. Yet each failed repeatedly as the system rejected their perfect but rigid solutions. When Maya's turn came, she approached each challenge differently, combining emotional and logical reasoning, weighing moral ambiguity, accepting imperfect but balanced solutions. To the amazement of the others, the system accepted her responses, advancing through security protocols with each success. "How are you solving these?" Trellnox demanded after watching Maya navigate a particularly complex ethical scenario. "Your solutions aren't mathematically optimal. They're holistically balanced," Maya explained. "These aren't just logic puzzles. They are testing compatibility with the Precursor's value system." The final challenge appeared, a complex scenario involving sacrifice for the greater good, with no perfect solution possible. Maya input her response, integrating compassion with practical necessity. The console glowed brilliantly, and a message appeared in Concordat standard language. "Only those who balance calculation with compassion may uninhit our network." The chamber transformed around them, dormant systems awakening throughout the pyramid. The entranced crew members collapsed as the mental connection released them. "What did you do?" Karks asked, helping his fallen comrades. Maya stood transfixed by the console's displays, now showing star maps and transit points across multiple galaxies. "I showed it we could think like they did," she whispered. The Precursors valued balance above perfection. A holographic entity coalesced before them, a tall, luminous being of indeterminate gender with multiple limbs and eyes that sparkled with intelligence. "Welcome, inheritors," it spoke in perfect Concordat standard. "I am the preserved consciousness of Archelaus, Precursor scientist and architect of the Great Bridge." The Concordat crew stood speechless before this mythical being, while Maya stepped forward with the natural diplomatic presence that had earned her position. "We are honored to meet you, Archelaus," she said. "We've come seeking passage home." The holographic entity studied her with ancient eyes. "Yes," it said at last. "You, small one, think as we once did." The Concordat was not ready until now. And with those cryptic words, the true revelations began. Archelaus's holographic form cast prismatic light across the mesmerized crew. The Precursor consciousness gestured, causing the chamber to transform into a virtual star map spanning galaxies. "Behold our legacy," the entity said. 100,000 years ago, my civilization seeded life throughout this galactic cluster, guiding evolution on thousands of worlds. Pinpoints of light illuminated across the display, each representing a world touched by Precursor influence. "We sought to create diversity of thought and capability," Archelaus continued. "Most worlds produced specialized species with extraordinary but narrow evolutionary advantages. Images appeared of countless alien species, some resembling the Concordat races, others utterly foreign. The Vex theory, the hologram indicated Trellnox, engineered for perfect mathematical cognition and technological interface. The Dorvanian, gesturing to Karks, designed for physical resilience and tactical processing. The Mithril evolved for telepathic communion across vast distances. Maya stepped forward. And humans, what was Earth designed to produce? Archelis's form shifted, focusing attention on her. Earth was our experimental world, the only planet where we prioritized adaptability over specialization. Your species was not engineered for any single function, but rather to bridge functions. The hologram expanded, showing DNA structures from various species. Humans were designed as the bridge species, cognitively compatible with precursor systems, yet able to communicate with all specialized life forms. Without such a connector, specialized species eventually become evolutionary dead ends, unable to adapt to cosmic changes. The revelation hung heavy in the chamber. Trellnox's exoskeleton paled, the Vex theory equivalent of shock. This contradicts all Concordat history, he whispered. We believe humans were a primitive accident, barely worthy of inclusion. Your Concordat was incomplete by design, Archelis replied. Each member species represents a specialized function in what was intended to be a galactic collective. Proximan diplomatic capacity, Vex theory technological brilliance, Dorvanian protection, Mithril communication, all extraordinary, but limited in scope. The holographic display shifted to show a symbolic representation of the Concordat, a fractured circle with a missing piece at its center. Humans fill that void, Maya realized. We're the generalists that connect the specialists. Precisely, confirmed Archelis. Your apparent weaknesses, shorter lifespans, less specialized abilities, force innovation and adaptation at rates other species cannot match. Your unique neuroplasticity allows you to understand perspectives across specialized cognition types. The crew absorbed this paradigm shift in stunned silence. Centuries of assumed superiority crumbled before the precursor's revelation. Kark suddenly snarled, his massive frame vibrating with rage. Lies, he roared, lunging toward the holographic interface. Dorvanians need no weak connectors. We are the warrior elite of the Concordat. He smashed his 4 fists into the control console, sending electrical arcs crackling through the chamber. Our purpose is OUROON. The pyramid trembled as ancient security protocols activated, doorways sealed with thunderous finality as warning symbols flashed across the walls. Containment protocol initiated, announced an automated voice unlike Archelis's. Facility purge commencing in 10 minutes. The hologram of Archelis flickered, damaged by Kark's assault on the physical components. The knowledge transfer incomplete. It stuttered before dissolving entirely. Maya leaped to the damaged console. We need to override the security system. Impossible, Trellnox declared, scanning the damage with his implant. The primary interface is destroyed. There must be secondary controls. Maya insisted, feeling along the walls where symbols still pulsed with energy. Precursors valued redundancy in their designs. As alarms blared and the chamber temperature began rising ominously, Maya frantically studied the patterns on the walls. Her eyes tracked mathematical sequences, searching for the pattern within patterns, the human specialty. Karks paced like a caged predator, his cultural foundations shattered by the revelations. What have I done? He growled, the Dorvanian equivalent of sorrow in his voice. Help me, Maya called to the others. Look for repeated sequences in the wall patterns. Anything that appears 3 times in succession would indicate a backup protocol. The crew spread out, their specialized perceptions now focused on a common goal. Trellnox's mathematical precision, the Mithril's pattern recognition, Karks's tactical assessment, all working in concert as Maya had coordinated. There, shouted one of the security specialists, pointing to a recurring symbol near the floor. Maya pressed the sequence of glyphs, causing the hidden panel to slide open, revealing a crystalline key. Override interface, she breathed, inserting the key into a matching receptacle. New holographic controls materialized, simpler and more robust than the primary system. Maya's fingers flew across the emergency interface, her diplomat's training in precursor symbolism proving unexpectedly crucial. 5 minutes to purge completion, warned the automated system. I need to establish connection rights, Maya called out. The system needs to recognize me as an authorized user. Use our biometric data, Trellnox suggested, extending his crystalline implant. If humans are truly the bridge species, perhaps the combination of our biological signatures would satisfy the system. One by one, the crew pressed their hands or appendages to the scanner alongside Maya's. The display flickered, processing the unprecedented combination of life forms acting in unity. Override accepted, the system finally announced. Purge protocol suspended. The chamber stabilized, but warning indicators remained active on the displays. The damage is severe, Maya reported, scanning the diagnostic screens. The installation is destabilizing. We have perhaps an hour before catastrophic failure. Can you access the transit system? Asked Captain Zinkala, who had remained quiet throughout the revelations, processing their implications for her crew and the Concordat. Maya navigated through the emergency systems. Yes, but we have only enough power for a single transit, enough to return the eternal harmony home. She looked up at the crew, human eyes meeting the varied sensory organs of multiple species. And there's one more thing. The precursor database contains technical specifications, blueprints for integrating their technology with our ship. Trellnox's implant flashed with excited calculations that would revolutionize Concordat technology by centuries. If we hurry, Maya said, already downloading the critical data, we might just get home with the greatest discovery in Concordat history. As they raced to implement the plan, Captain Zinkala placed a hand on Maya's shoulder, a gesture of respect rarely offered to any species. It seems, Lieutenant Chen, she said, mandibles clicking thoughtfully, that we have much to reconsider about humanity's place in the stars. The installation's structural integrity is failing, Trellnox reported, his crystalline implant flashing with urgent calculations. Complete collapse estimated in 43 minutes. The rescue team raced back to their shuttle, carrying the recovered expedition members who were slowly regaining consciousness. Maya clutched a precursor data crystal containing the technical specifications they'd extracted from the database. We need to prepare the eternal harmony for integration with the transit system, she explained as they lifted off. The precursor technology can be temporarily grafted onto our propulsion and navigation systems. As they approached the ship in orbit, the captain opened a ship-wide channel. All hands, prepare for emergency modifications. Engineering teams to report to primary systems. We have less than 30 minutes to implement critical upgrades. The shuttle bay erupted into organized chaos as it docked. Trellnox immediately began coordinating engineering teams, dividing the complex integration tasks according to expertise. Lieutenant Chen will direct the overall implementation, he announced, shocking the assembled crew. Her understanding of the precursor systems is essential to our success. Maya projected the technical schematics from the data crystal, highlighting key integration points. We need to modify the quantum field generators to accept the precursor transit protocols. The energy requirements will temporarily drain most ship systems. As teams dispersed to their tasks, Maya felt a massive presence behind her. Kark stood there, his forearms hanging in formal contrition posture. I endangered our return with my actions, the Dorvanian said, uncharacteristic humility in his rumbling voice. Allow me to make amends. I will manually hold the transit portal open on the surface. That's a suicide mission, Maya protested. Once the installation begins collapse, nothing will survive. My species was engineered for sacrifice in service of the greater community, Karks replied. Perhaps that is not such a terrible purpose after all. Before she could argue further, Captain Zinkala intervened. We need every skilled hand for the ship modifications. Karks, your strength is required here. The Dorvanian nodded reluctantly, joining a team reinforcing the hull for transit stresses. On the surface, the pyramid emitted pulses of energy visible even from orbit as its systems began catastrophic failure sequences. Time was running out. In engineering, Maya and Trellnox worked in perfect synchronization, their earlier antagonism replaced by respectful collaboration. Human intuition and Vex theory precision complemented each other as they integrated alien technology with the Eternal Harmony systems. Power couplings modified. Trellnox reported quantum field harmonization at 87% compatibility. That's enough, Maya decided. We won't get better without days of calibration. Captain Zinkala's voice came over the comm. Status report. Can we initiate transit? Yes, Captain, Maya confirmed. But we have a problem. The transit energies require manual containment at the destination point. Someone must remain behind in the installation to stabilize the portal. Silence hung heavy across the communication channel. I'll do it. Karx's voice finally broke the silence. My duty to the crew remains unfulfilled. No, Maya countered. I studied the system. I know which controls to manipulate to maximize your window for transit. Absolutely not, the captain interjected. You're the only one who fully understands the precursor technology. Before the argument could continue, alarms blared throughout the ship. Installation entering terminal phase, reported the science officer. Complete structural failure imminent. Maya looked at the schematic one final time, then made a decision. Captain, there's a third option. If we reconfigure the shield generators to project a quantum stabilization field, we might be able to hold the portal without sacrificing anyone. That would leave us vulnerable during transit, Trellnox warned. Better damaged than dead, Maya replied. I need your help to reconfigure the shields. The next 15 minutes passed in a blur of frantic activity. Engineering teams rerouted power systems while Maya and Trellnox reprogrammed the shield generators with hybrid precursor algorithms. Installation collapse accelerating, reported the science officer. Transit window closing in 2 minutes. Activate modified shields, ordered the captain. The Eternal Harmony shuddered as its energy fields reconfigured, projecting the stabilization beam toward the disintegrating pyramid. The structure's collapse slowed momentarily as the ship's systems strained to maintain the connection. Initiating transit sequence, Maya announced from her makeshift control station. Space distorted around the vessel as precursor transit energies interacted with Concordat technology. The pyramid on the surface imploded in spectacular fashion, sending a final surge of power through the connection. Hold on, shouted the captain as reality itself seemed to bend around them. Light and sound ceased for what felt like eternity compressed into an instant. Then, with a thunderous crack, the Eternal Harmony tore through space-time, emerging in a familiar star system. Location confirmed, reported the navigation officer in disbelief. Concordat Central. We've arrived in home space. Cheers erupted across the ship, quickly silenced as systems began failing in cascade. The transit had pushed their damaged vessel beyond its limits. Emergency power to life support, ordered the captain. Transmit distress signal. 6 months later, the Grand Council chamber of Concordat Central hummed with anticipation. Representatives from 37 member species gathered for what had been described as a paradigm-shifting announcement. Captain Zinkala stood at the speaking podium, her formal carapace gleaming under ceremonial lights. Beside her stood Maya Chen, now wearing the insignia of a newly created position, Human Integration Officer. Honored representatives, the captain began. The experiences of the Eternal Harmony have revealed truths that will forever change our understanding of the Concordat's purpose. Holographic displays activated, showing the refitted ship now incorporating visible precursor technology. Around the chamber, similar retrofitting could be seen on the assembled delegates' personal devices and implants. The precursor technologies we discovered require both specialized expertise and human intuitive interface to function properly, Zinkala explained. Neither alone is sufficient. Maya stepped forward. The human delegation proposes a new operational structure for Concordat vessels and installations. Integration teams combining species-specific specializations with human adaptive thinking have shown 327% efficiency improvements in initial trials. Murmurs spread through the chamber as the implications became clear. The hierarchy that had placed humans at the bottom of Concordat society was fundamentally unsustainable. Beyond technological considerations, Captain Zinkila continued, "We have discovered our true heritage. The Concordat was never meant to be a collection of superior species graciously including lesser ones. It was designed as a symbiotic collective, with each member's species fulfilling complementary roles." The chamber erupted in debate, some delegates outraged, others fascinated by the possibilities. Through it all, Maya stood calmly, embodying the bridge between specialized brilliance that humans had evolved to become. As the session adjourned, Maya's communication device chimed with a private message. Coordinates appeared on her screen, pointing to another precursor installation hidden at the edge of Concordat space. Below the coordinates, a simple message. "The bridge is built. The real journey begins." She smiled, showing the message to Captain Zinkala. "It seems our adventure was just the first step." The captain's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, the proximate expression of anticipation. "The Eternal Harmony has been fully refitted with hybrid systems. The crew has requested you be permanently assigned as our integration officer." "An integrated crew for an integrated ship," Maya nodded. "Seems appropriate." Beyond the council chamber windows, thousands of Concordat vessels gleamed in orbital docks. Many already showed signs of retrofitting with precursor-inspired systems that required both specialized alien expertise and human intuition to operate. The vessel that had once been stranded now soared with new purpose, a physical embodiment of the synthesis between human adaptability and alien specialization. The Eternal Harmony had become a literal manifestation of its name. Diverse parts working in concert, greater than the sum of their specialized components. As Maya watched a crew of mixed species board their newly integrated ship, she reflected on the irony that humanity's greatest strength had never been technological superiority or evolutionary specialization. It had been the very quality the Concordat had dismissed as primitive, the ability to connect disparate pieces into a cohesive whole. The Terrestrial had taken control, and the vessels would soar together.